Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Federal and county health officials arrived in the Tijuana River Valley today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. They are asking residents about their experiences with cross-border sewage pollution. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says the 3-day effort will include more than 200 households.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the County of San Diego are working together to conduct the survey. They're visiting 210 homes to ask how living near pollution in the Tijuana River Valley has affected people's lives.
Some households might have young children that are attending the school system, and they might be affected in a different way by the sewage crisis versus other households that might have elderly or vulnerable individuals living in their households.
The county already collects data on gastrointestinal and respiratory illnesses from emergency rooms in the area. This survey will ask residents about their physical health, mental health, and quality of life.
We were hearing reports of individuals with various symptoms, right, that may not necessarily be coming into the emergency room, and we wanted to make sure that we could capture that.
They're also asking how community members would like to receive updates on the sewage crisis. The group conducting the survey includes more than 30 CDC staff members. Captain Fu-Yen Yip says CDC experts helped the county develop the survey and identify neighborhoods to visit.
The random selection process will allow us to get, kind of a cross-section, a diverse section of feedback directly from the communities.
Yip says a final report will be ready early next year. The county says the results will help shape its response. In the meantime, the CDC's Agency of Toxic Substances and Disease Registry will also survey people who work in or near the ocean, like lifeguards, fishermen, and coastal business owners, about their experiences with contaminated water. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Over the summer, National City opened a shelter with 162 beds for unhoused people, but the city's mayor says only half of those beds are filled. Mayor Ron Morrison tells our media partner KGTV that most of the homeless people in National City are being pushed there from surrounding areas and that many refuse help. He adds that there is a growing number of encampments along state property and freeways.
We're humanizing this thing, saying it is not humane to have a person sleeping on a sidewalk. It's not humane to have a person sleeping with rats. It's not humane to people sleeping out bathroom facilities and hygiene and all this. That's not humane.
National City's ordinance banning homeless encampments in certain parts of the city takes effect on Thursday. Under the ordinance, which was unanimously approved by the National City Council in September, people are prohibited from sleeping on public property anywhere within 2 blocks of schools, waterways, trolley stops, and transit hubs. Tonight, the San Dieguito Union High School District Board takes the next step toward a financial audit of all its school foundations. It comes after a student report claimed one foundation was mismanaging funds raised by student clubs. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen says foundation leaders dispute the claim and say they've got nothing to hide.
The vast majority of our community trusts what we do, and that is to make sure that every kid at this school every day has an enriching environment.
Yvette Roberts and Sandra Sinsek are members of the Kenyan Crest Academy Foundation board. They are giving me a tour of the school's robotics lab. They say donations from parents paid for this lab and the equipment here.
Examples would be like the CNC machine, AP biology supplies. We've also got day classes and STEM day classes, and also the machine learning kits and cables. They all benefit from that.
Last month, 2 Kenyan Crest students published a report saying the foundation charges student clubs significantly higher fees for donations than similar foundations at other schools. They say CCAF charges 25%, while other school foundations charge between 5 to 10%. Robert says the 25% is not a fee, but a reallocation to the general fund for each program. The foundation says this is how they can fund big-ticket items.
If another school chooses 10%, that must work for their foundation. For us, let's say we do need a new gym floor, it's going to take time for that, right? But if the 25% comes in, we can fund it.
The 25% is very transparent. It is everywhere. It's on the website. It was in orientation meetings. It was in program materials.
Christy Grover is a parent at CCA and a nonprofit executive with 25 years in the industry. She says all students benefit from that 25%.
In the case of robotics, they needed additional fencing to help with their robots and try things out. Also, a 3D printer is something they were able to get. But really, it's based on need within the program scope.
Kevin Wang and Latong Tien are students who wrote the report. They say the benefits do not justify what they say are high fees.
If you look at Torrey Pines, for example, they charge under 10%. I think 5 or slightly above that, but under 10 at Torrey Pines, a third of what we charge. Their robotics team is very comparable to ours. They've scored better than us many times in the past few years.
They allege that some of the money went toward executive pay and undefined expenses. After the students' report was published last month, the district announced it would audit all school foundations. SINSEC is confident the audit will show nothing unusual.
We're looking forward to sharing that information with our constituents and our families and our donors.
The students say they're willing to accept the results of the audit, whatever it may be, if it's done in a transparent manner. In Carmel Valley, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Well, happy Thursday, everyone. As we head into the weekend, I am tracking lots of sunshine. We will see some cloudy starts to the early mornings, but the afternoons are going to be filled with sunny skies. But I will also be tracking some chilly mornings here as we head into the weekend, so heads up for that. But then after that, a pretty good warm up here for some areas, even getting back to the 90s. I'll detail that forecast coming up.
Project 2025, billed as a roadmap for the next conservative president, would break up the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. KPBS's Amita Sharma reports on what that could mean for weather prediction.
The National Weather Service is housed within the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, known as NOAA. Its California weather forecast offices are staffed 24/7 to predict the weather and issue warnings to residents. Paul Hepner, co-chair of Friends of NOAA, says it is a critical system for coordinating with other government agencies.
So when they're issuing, for instance, like a winter storm warning or something of that nature, they're collaborating amongst the offices to see how they can synchronize and tie in their warning so you don't have gaps.
Project 2025, the brainchild of the conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation, wants to split and downsize NOAA, claiming it has become one of the, quote, drivers of the climate alarm industry. Project 2025 advocates commercializing the National Weather Service, refocusing it on data collection and leaving the forecasts and warnings to private companies. Again, Hepner.
If you didn't have the authority of the government behind watches and warnings, then it'd be hodgepodge and almost chaotic in a way.
Former President Donald Trump has separated himself from Project 2025, but many of his former staffers helped draft it. The Heritage Foundation declined an interview on the plan. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
And this story is part of a series we are doing as part of our Public Matters project. You can see more of our coverage at kpbs.org/Public Matters. We are now just 19 days from the general election, and the KPBS Voter Hub is filled with information to help you get informed. We recently launched this year's Voter Hub in English and Spanish. You can find information on the candidates and the measures on the ballot. There is also a list of important dates and an interactive quiz to help narrow down which candidates and issues best match your views. You can find a link to the Voter Hub at the top of our homepage at kpbs.org. One of those explainers is for San Diego's Measure E. Katie Anastas explains why San Diego's mayor is asking to raise the local sales tax and where that money would go.
Oh, hey, City of San Diego. Why the long face? I'm facing a $200 million structural deficit. I'm not bringing in enough money to pay my bills. What are you going to do? Well, I'm asking voters to decide whether to increase sales tax in the city to bring me more money I can spend. Right now, the sales tax rate in the city is 7.75%. I get 1% of that, or 1 cent on each dollar subject to sales tax. This measure would increase the rate to 8.75% and give me another penny. Okay, how much money would that give you? $360 million to $400 million more dollars in the first year, according to the independent budget analyst. I could spend that on things like stormwater infrastructure and fixing potholes.
It is the opportunity to address long-standing shortages that have been around for decades and have held our city back and caused our infrastructure and public assets to fall into disrepair.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. Who are you? I'm a concerned taxpayer. Don't you want better public infrastructure? Yeah, but I think the city needs to do a better job of managing the money it already gets, even if it means making tough budget cuts. Here's Haney Hong, President and CEO of the San Diego County Taxpayers Association.
What is changing in our spending habits? If our spending habits aren't changing, it doesn't matter how much money is on the table, the problem will not get addressed.
Wow, this is a tough one. Guess we'll have to see what happens in November. And remember, some other cities have sales tax measures on the ballot this year, so be sure to check out our full voter guide at kpbs.org.
It's less than 3 weeks until Election Day, and there's an important question on every voter's ballot in San Diego County. Measure G. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen is here with me in the studio to help break this down. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Maya.
So Measure G is going to increase the county sales tax rate by 0.5 percentage point, and that's going to pay for transportation projects. So tell us, how much is this looking to raise, and what is that money going to be used for?
Well, the estimate is that overall Measure G would raise about $350 million per year. So that's a good chunk of change that San Diego could build some new things with. And as you can see here, there is a detailed spending plan in Measure G that sets aside about 50%, or exactly 50%, of the funds for public transit infrastructure. So that would mean new rail lines, new high-speed rail lines, additional rapid bus services, physical projects that improve the public transit system. About 12% would be set aside for transit operations. So once you build that new rail line, you got to make sure that the trains are running often enough that people don't have to wait, an hour once they get to the station. That could also help prevent fare increases. So keeping transit affordable for the folks who really depend on it, like seniors, youth, and low-income or disabled veterans. 2% is a small set aside for rail repairs, and then you have just over 1/3 of the funds that would go towards highways and local streets. So that would mean new HOV lanes on the freeways, improved wildfire evacuation routes in some of our wildfire-prone areas, and then the streets set aside is for road repair, filling potholes, things like that.
So it would be spread quite widely. Well, San Diego, as we all know, is a very expensive region. So tell us, what does this actually mean for consumers here?
Well, right now, San Diego County's sales tax rate is 7.75%. Some of the cities in the county have additional sales tax measures on top of that, but the baseline rate in the county is 7.75%. And if Measure G passes, that would go up to 8.25%. And that is still relatively low when you look at all of the cities in California and what sales tax rates they all have. It would still put us well below the sales tax rate in Los Angeles County, most of the cities in the Bay Area. So, and I would say, one way to think about what this would cost for an individual is to think of a $100 transaction, a nice round number. So let's say you eat out at a restaurant, the bill is $100. If Measure G passes, an additional 50 cents in sales tax would be added to that bill.
So could you walk us through what the opponents are saying and those who are for Measure G are saying?
Yeah, opponents say that, unsurprisingly, San Diego Ago is so expensive and that consumers just can't afford another tax increase like this. They also argue that the government can't be trusted to spend this money wisely, and they point to some scandals at SANDAG, the county transportation agency that would be managing a lot of these big construction projects. And they also say that in that pie chart, that breakdown of where the money is going, not enough money is going towards highways and too much money is going towards public transit. Now, the supporters of Measure G argue that, sure, not everybody takes transit, but some people do, and if you improve the system, more people will be taking transit, and ultimately that means fewer cars on the road, less traffic, less congestion, and less emissions. They say that we need to invest in transportation infrastructure in order to avoid the gridlock and the smog issues that our neighbors to the north in Los Angeles experience on a daily basis. And they say, you know, this money is worth investing. It'll create local jobs, and that it'll create more transportation options, particularly more affordable and sustainable transportation options.
I really appreciate this breakdown. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen, thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
Follow KPBS on our social media platforms for more election explainers. We've posted several in recent days and more are on the way. You'll find them on the KPBS YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok accounts. At the state level, voters are asked to decide a proposition that deals with a source of stress for a lot of families, healthcare, and how to pay for it. Prop 35 deals with how doctors are compensated through Medi-Cal. Health reporter Kristen Wong explains the arguments for and against.
Every few years, lawmakers renew a tax on certain health insurance plans. It's called the Managed Care Organization, or MCO tax. The money generated is used to get an equal amount of revenue from the federal government to support healthcare. Lawmakers have relied on this tax for many years to maintain the state's expansive public insurance program known as Medi-Cal. More than 14 million low-income Californians use Medi-Cal. So if this tax already exists, how would the statewide ballot initiative change it? I'm Kristen Wong, health reporter for Cal Matters, and this is Prop 35 in a minute. Over the past decade, California lawmakers have drastically expanded Medi-Cal. Low-income people, regardless of citizenship, are covered, and benefits include things like hearing aids, dental care, and doulas. But payments to the doctors that take Medi-Cal have not kept up with program expansion or inflation. California's reimbursement rate falls in the bottom third nationally, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. This makes it hard for Medi-Cal patients to find a doctor. Prop 35 would take that existing tax we talked about and earmark the money to increase certain Medi-Cal payments, including primary and specialty care. It would also prevent lawmakers from using the tax money for other purposes. Earlier this year, Governor Gavin Newsom sought to do just that by eliminating Medi-Cal rate increases to decrease the state deficit. Supporters say without better pay, low-income patients will continue to struggle to find a doctor. There's no registered opposition to the measure, but policy experts caution that initiatives like this make it difficult to balance the state budget. California currently faces an estimated $56 billion deficit over the next 2 years. So vote yes if you want to ensure this tax money is spent on Medi-Cal. Vote no if you want to keep things the way they are. To learn more about everything on your 2024 ballot, go to calmatters.org.
A suit involving 1,300 people who say they were sexually abused as children by Catholic clergy are getting a settlement. The Los Angeles Archdiocese has agreed to pay $880 million to settle the lawsuit in what experts are calling the highest single payout by a diocese. The settlement will be paid through reserves, investments, and loans, and brings the total sex abuse lawsuit payout to $1.5 billion. Well, new ownership has formally taken over San Diego Wave FC, wrapping up months-long process. The new owners are Lauren Leichtman and Arthur Levine. They run a private equity firm based in Los Angeles. They're buying Wave FC at a cost of $113 million. This is a rebuilding period for the team, which lost its head coach and its star player, Alex Morgan, this season. And recently, several ex-employees filed a lawsuit alleging a hostile work environment. This week brought us Indigenous Peoples Day in California, and near the state capitol, a first-of-its-kind library open to students and their families. Ashley Sharp tells us how it's sharing the stories of past and current Native cultures.
This is the first time that the students are going to be able to understand and get some insight into Native culture, Native tribes, our different traditions and ceremonies.
Book by book, Joshina Clough of Woodland's American Indian Parent Committee built a library full of Native American history and heritage for all ages.
And we want people to learn about the impact of the gold rush, the impact of the missions, the impact of John Sutter.
The library, housed in the district's Native Student Resource Center at Douglas Middle, was blessed Wednesday night and officially open to students and the public.
So this is a big accomplishment. It feels good to be one of the first kid to check out a book from here.
Woodland Joint Unified's superintendent says these investments for the district's Native American students are a long time coming.
To us, this is important to acknowledge that, no, you are not forgotten. We see you, we hear you, and you're important to us.
Because never forgetting the tribal truths of these lands means passing those stories on to the next generation.
It gives people to read the truth, right? They don't have to stereotype anymore or make things up or see things on TV.
Mike Duncan of the nonprofit Native Dads Network says this library is a first of its kind.
We are modeling something that has never been done before in like an elementary or a middle school district in Northern California.
It's the first page of a new chapter in Woodland schools that organizers hope will be read region-wide.
I am tracking some chilly mornings followed by some pretty warm afternoons here for the next couple of days. For tonight, overnight lows will dip into the low 60s. There will be some low clouds near the coast, but overall, as we head into the afternoon hours, lots of sunshine. Lows here for tonight will primarily be a mix of 50s and 60s. We'll even see some 40s here in the elevated areas, the higher elevations, but 57 tonight for Oceanside and Camp Pendleton, 62 downtown San Diego. And then as we head into Friday, there will be an area of low pressure bringing some snow for some portions of the Rockies. It'll stay dry across California, but much cooler air the further inland you go. But across the coastal regions will be, for the most part, normal for this time of year. But look at this temperature contrast here as we head into Friday afternoon. Some areas are going to be 20 to 30 degrees cooler for Friday than what they were for Thursday. So for your forecast highs here for your Friday afternoon, yeah, take a look at this. We'll see a mix of low to mid to upper 70s primarily. And then you get into the mountainous regions, we'll see temperatures in the 50s and then even some 80s there for the desert regions. But overall, lots of sunshine here on the map as we head into your Friday. Future track radar is showing, watching out for those showers, even that snowfall developing across the Rockies, especially in Utah. That's going to last and push into the Denver metro area here with some of that snowfall as we head into late Friday, early Saturday, but overall staying clear there across the coast. So for that coastal forecast, I'm tracking some chilly starts. Look at those morning lows in the 40s as we head into the weekend. But speaking of the weekend, Sunday into Monday, we're going to see a little bit of a warming trend here back in the forecast with highs back in the low to mid 80s. And then we'll see things moderate a little bit as we head into Tuesday. But overall, that looks like a pretty dry forecast. Inland temperatures will be in the 70s before they climb back into the mid to upper 80s. That same warming trend I was talking about with overnight lows in the 40s. The mountainous regions will see lows in the 30s, near freezing Saturday morning before highs make it back into the 70s on Tuesday. And then we'll see some more warm air for the deserts.
Well, ready for a little mystery? It's something you may have noticed about San Diego when you're driving. Ken Kramer shows us what's behind one particularly puzzling curiosity.
Traveling the streets of San Diego, you get familiar with them, so here's one. See if you know, where is Underpass Street? Pops up online every once in a while. Here, for example, a couple of houses listed on Underpass Street. Well, you find interesting names in a part of Mira Mesa, galaxies like Andromeda, and the constellations abound, and signs of the zodiac, Capricorn and Libra. It's said that someone in the developer's family had a fascination with astronomy. In Point Loma, drive northeast up Rosecrans. It's an A to Z alphabetical array of authors, from English essayist Joseph Addison and poet Lord Byron through D, E, and F, to the Greek philosopher Xenophon, who was born in 430 BC, so he's the X, then novelist Charlotte Mary Yonge, and French novelist Émile Zola, before the A's start up again. Also alphabetical, in the very heart of our city, streets named for trees and vines, beginning with ash, beech, and cedar, through S for spruce, T for thorn, and U for Upas. Now, can I just say that Upas always sort of threw me because, and I have to admit something here, I didn't exactly know what a Upas was. Oh, well, I knew it had to be a tree or something because that's what all the streets here are named for. But here you go. Here's a Upas. It's a tropical tree from Asia that is surrounded by fearsome myth. Now, it's true that the juice and bark of a Upas tree produces a very toxic chemical, and arrows that were dipped in it were deadly. But the story didn't stop there. No, it was said that the Upas tree itself exhaled a poison that brought death to everything and everybody within a 15-mile radius. It isn't true, of course. There's actually a Christmas story called The Upas Tree. And here in San Diego, one more little oddity about Upas Street. Those letters, U-P-A-S, when some computerized maps see those letters together, they think it's an abbreviation for underpass. So if sometime you come across an address on that mysterious underpass street, save yourself some time searching for it and just remember this story about San Diego.
Love learning new things. If you want to see more of Ken Kramer's stories about San Diego, he has a half hour of them every Thursday night at 8 o'clock right here on KPBS. Here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. President Joe Biden is in Europe for what may be one of the last foreign trips of his term. NPR's Morning Edition will have an update from Germany. And get the latest from KPBS delivered right into your inbox. We have a variety of newsletters, including daily headlines, KPBS Arts, streaming picks, and our North County focus. Just go to kpbs.org and look for the newsletters section at the top of the screen. And from there, you can sign up with your email address. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.